My name is Dawson Remington, 28 years old from Columbus, Ohio. What would you do if the man who abandoned your family showed up right before your wedding, smiling, apologetic, and asking to be your best man? I let him have the spotlight, just long enough to burn everything down. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping true stories about betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Your support helps bring these powerful narratives to life. Welcome back to the story. 3 weeks before my wedding, I opened the door to my past, and it was wearing a suit. I had just left a cake tasting with Lana, my fiancée, and swung by our wedding planner's office to drop off the final guest list. I wasn't expecting company. I definitely wasn't expecting him. There he stood on the sidewalk outside the office in downtown Columbus, Cal Remington. My father, the man who vanished 19 years ago. He hadn't aged the way I imagined. His hair was grayer, sure, but the smug confidence remained untouched. He still had that sharp jaw and calculating eyes, like he was always deciding what part of you he could use next. His smile made my gut tighten. "Dawson," he said, like he hadn't ghosted me before my 10th birthday. "You've grown up." No kidding, I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared at the man who missed every birthday, skipped mom's funeral, and ignored every chance to reach out over the years. The silence between us buzzed with 1,000 unsaid things. "I saw the wedding announcement," he said casually, nodding toward the bridal registry printout in his hand. "You and Lana look great together." I thought maybe it was time. Time for what? I asked, my voice colder than I intended. He chuckled like we were just catching up. "To reconnect. I know I've missed a lot. But I want to be part of your life again. Starting now." "Why now?" He hesitated, just a flicker, but I caught it. "Because you're getting married. And I'd like to support you. Maybe even stand beside you." I blinked. "You want to be in the wedding?" His grin widened. "Let me be your best man." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so wildly surreal it made my chest tighten. "You think you can disappear for nearly 2 decades, then waltz in and play Father of the Year at my wedding?" I asked. "I didn't say father," he replied. "I said best man." That was the moment I knew, Cal hadn't changed. He wasn't here to make amends. He was here for something else. He was always after something. I didn't slam the door in his face. I wanted to. But something in me, a quiet, bitter voice I hadn't heard in years, whispered, "Don't walk away." "Not yet," so instead, I said, "Give me a number. I'll call you." He handed me a sleek black card and gave a small nod, like we'd just signed some unspoken agreement. As he turned and walked away, a breeze lifted the edge of his coat, and I noticed the gold cufflinks. Expensive. He was doing well, too well. I looked down at the card in my hand. Cal Remington, business consultant, Arlington Solutions Group. This wasn't a reunion. It was an opening move, and I was about to play the long game. I stared at the sleek business card Cal had left in my hand for the better part of an hour. Business consultant, sure. Just like he was a family man once. The name of his company, Arlington Solutions Group, rang a distant bell, but I couldn't place it. I Googled it while I sat in my car outside the wedding planner's office. Their site looked clean, corporate, generic, too generic. No leadership bios. No client list. Just stock photos and buzzwords like strategic execution and high-value growth. He was up to something. That much was obvious. That night, Lana found me on the couch with our wedding binder untouched in front of me and a glass of bourbon half empty. She didn't even ask what was wrong, just sat beside me, waited. "He showed up," I finally said. "My dad." She stiffened. "What?" "He found me. Said he wants to be in the wedding. Best man." Lana blinked. "You mean the same guy who left your mom with debt and never called again? That dad? That one?" She shook her head slowly. "And he just wants back in, just like that?" I handed her the business card. He says he's changed. Says he wants to reconnect. But I don't think this is about reconciliation. Then what is it? I hesitated. I think it's about the spotlight. About the name, the attention. Maybe even money. Lana's expression darkened. You think he knows about my family's portfolio? Why else come crawling back now? I ran a hand through my hair. There's something about him, Lana. It's like he was rehearsed. Too polished. Like he wasn't just showing up as my dad, he was performing. She leaned back. Then don't give him the role. I looked at her, and something inside me clicked. No, I think I should. At least for now. She raised an eyebrow. You're serious? If I shut him out, I won't learn what he's after. But if I let him think he's getting what he wants, maybe I'll finally get answers. She didn't like it, neither did I, but Lana understood. Just don't let him get close enough to hurt you again, she whispered. I nodded, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just about emotional closure. I had questions only Cal could answer, about the money that disappeared, about the forged documents we found in Mom's files, about why he really left, and if he wanted to play the best man, fine. I'd hand him the script, but I'd be the one writing the ending. The next morning, I pulled out a rusted lockbox from the back of my closet, one of the last things I had left from my mother. She'd passed it down to me after I graduated college, said it was full of paperwork and pain, and made me promise not to open it unless I was ready. I was ready now. The metal creaked as I opened the lid, revealing a stack of folders, yellowed envelopes, and bank statements sealed with rubber bands. At the very bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, was a photo of me, my mom, and my sister, our last Christmas together before Cal vanished. We all wore matching plaid pajamas. Mom was smiling, but her eyes looked strained. I'd never noticed it before. I sifted through the papers, looking for anything that could explain how we went from middle-class comfort to selling our furniture just to make rent. That's when I found it, a loan agreement. Dated 6 months before Cal disappeared. A second mortgage on our house, for $60,000. Co-signed, supposedly, by my mother, but the signature wasn't hers. I'd seen her sign enough permission slips and birthday cards to recognize the difference. The slant was off. The loop in her R was too tight. Cal had forged it. And he'd taken the money. I found 2 more documents just like it. One showing a credit line opened in her name for $15,000. Another authorizing the transfer of retirement funds into an account I didn't recognize, an offshore bank. Based in the Cayman Islands, I sat back, breath caught in my chest. He hadn't just left us, he'd looted us first. I scanned the documents and uploaded copies to a flash drive. I'd seen enough. My next stop was the Franklin County Records Office. If there was a paper trail, I wanted the whole map. The clerk was helpful but hesitant. These are old records, she warned as she pulled a box from storage. Not everything's digital. Inside were deeds, tax records, notarized forms, all confirming what I feared. Cal had systematically drained everything he could from our family before vanishing. And worse? He did it legally, on paper at least. With forged signatures, but nothing we could have proven without catching him back then. Now here he was, in my life again, asking to stand beside me in a tux like nothing had happened. I left the office and sat in my car for 10 minutes, staring at the courthouse steps. The sun hit just right through the windshield, casting light across the passenger seat, where I imagined him sitting, grinning, as he walked out of our lives with pockets full of stolen years. But I wasn't a kid anymore. I was a man with proof, and my father wasn't walking into my wedding, he was walking into a reckoning. The moment Kendra opened the door to their Westerville home, I knew she wasn't the villain in this story. She was a casualty, just like us. She looked maybe 10 years younger than Cal, wearing yoga pants, an oversized OSU sweatshirt, and the kind of hopeful smile that made me feel guilty for what I was about to do. You must be Dawson, she said brightly, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Cal's mentioned you a few times. He didn't say you'd be dropping by. I thought I'd surprise him, I lied, smiling politely. Is he home? No, he's at a client meeting downtown. You just missed him. I paused, then tilted my head. Mind if I come in for a minute? There's something I wanted to ask you about. The wedding. That was all it took. She stepped aside. The house was clean. Quiet. Filled with carefully curated furniture and framed photos, Cal with Kendra on some beach, Cal shaking hands with a man in a suit, Cal holding a toddler. My stomach twisted. She poured me coffee and asked about the venue. I gave vague answers, waiting for my moment. Kendra, I said, setting my mug down, did Cal ever mention what happened when he left us? Me, my sister, my mom? She looked puzzled. He said the marriage ended badly. That your mother took you and cut contact. That she was unstable. I smiled grimly. He told you that, huh? Her brow furrowed. Wasn't it true? No, I said softly. What he didn't tell you was that he emptied our bank accounts. Forged my mother's signature on a second mortgage. Took retirement funds and disappeared. We lost the house. My mom worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. Kendra blinked. Wait, what? He didn't tell you that? Her hands trembled as she placed her cup down. No. He told me your mom shut him out. That she was dangerous. That he had no choice. I pulled out the flash drive from my pocket and slid it across the counter. Everything you need to know is on here, documents, timelines, scanned records. I'm not here to ruin your marriage. I just want you to know who he really is. She stared at the flash drive like it might bite her. Why are you telling me this? She asked finally, because he's lying to you, just like he lied to us. And he's circling again, acting like he wants to be part of my life. But Cal Remington doesn't reconnect. He calculates. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Then she whispered, I think I've known something was off for a long time. That was all I needed to hear. As I stood to leave, she reached out. Dawson. Thank you. I nodded once. You deserve the truth. We all do. Outside, the wind was cold and sharp. I slid into my car and looked back at the house. She didn't know before. But now, the clock was ticking on Cal's lies. I didn't wait long to confront him. The next day, I texted Cal and told him I'd made a decision about the wedding. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop on High Street, neutral ground with too many people around for him to slip into some manipulative performance. He showed up 10 minutes early, already seated at a corner table with 2 lattes and that infuriating smile plastered on his face. Glad you came, he said, gesturing for me to sit. I was hoping we could have a real talk, man to man. I sat down and slid the flash drive across the table. That's everything I found. Every lie. Every dollar. Every signature you forged. His face didn't even twitch. You gave that to Kendra too? He asked coolly, not even pretending to deny it. She deserved the truth. We all did. Cal leaned back, exhaling slowly. So that's how this is going to go. No, I said. This is how you're going to go. Out of my life. Out of my wedding. For good. He gave a dry chuckle and sipped his latte. Dawson, I'm not the villain you've built me up to be. Things were complicated. You stole from us. Left us in ruins. That's not complicated, it's calculated. Cal's mask slipped then. Just a crack. Enough for desperation to leak through. Fine, he said, setting his cup down hard. Yes, I screwed up. Yes, I took money. And you know what? I had to. I was drowning. Your mom, God rest her, she didn't understand. I had creditors circling. And if I didn't act, we'd all go under. So you let us drown instead. He rubbed his hands together. You think it was easy starting over with nothing? I rebuilt everything from scratch. And now it's all going under again. Kendra found out. Her lawyers froze the accounts. I've got 2 lawsuits, no money, and the walls are closing in. There it was. The real reason he was back. You're broke, I said flatly. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. You saw the wedding as a way out. A chance to network, charm Lana's family, maybe even squeeze a loan out of someone. You're smart, he said with a shrug. You always were. I stood up, heart hammering. You're not here because you care. You're here because you're cornered. And you thought maybe, just maybe, I'd be stupid enough to help you. I'm your father, he said sharply. No. You were a father for 9 years. You've been a parasite ever since. He didn't follow me as I walked out, and for the first time in my life, I felt taller than him, because Cal Remington finally confessed, not because he felt guilty, but because he had nothing left to lose. I didn't tell Lana right away, not because I was hiding anything, but because I needed time to build the trap. Cal thought I was finished with him after our confrontation at the coffee shop. He had no idea I was just getting started. By the following week, I called him back. I've been thinking, I said over the phone, about your offer to be my best man. Silence on the other end. I want you in the wedding, I continued. Let's give everyone the reunion they're expecting. When he finally answered, his voice was tight with disbelief. You're serious? As serious as you were about walking out on us. He chuckled, not catching the venom laced in my tone. You won't regret it. But I hoped he would. The plan wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about truth. If Cal wanted attention, I'd give him a spotlight, just long enough for him to burn. Lana was hesitant when I told her. Are you sure you want to do this at the wedding? It has to be there, I said. That's where he expects to shine. It's the only place it'll stick. We adjusted the guest list. I made sure every important name on Lana's side stayed. Her parents' investment friends. Their real estate partners. Journalists Lana knew from her nonprofit work. People with influence. People who talked. Then I rewrote the best man speech. Page 1 started the way any wedding speech would. A few awkward jokes, childhood stories, a bit of sentiment. But by page 3, it took a turn, an undeniable turn. I included the forged mortgage, the offshore accounts, the debt he left us in. And then, in front of 100 people, would hand him a folder, copies of every document, every signature, every lie. I even practiced it once in front of the mirror. I didn't stutter. I didn't blink. Cal spent the next few days strutting around like he'd won something, texting me pictures of cufflinks. Asking about tuxedo fittings, even suggesting song choices for the reception. It was almost pathetic. The night before the wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner at a rooftop venue downtown. He gave a speech of his own, full of charm and convenient amnesia. People clapped. Lana squeezed my hand under the table. She knew what was coming. I went to bed that night feeling nothing, not nervous. Not angry, just ready. The man who tried to break us with silence would be undone by words, and in less than 24 hours, Cal Remington's final performance would play out exactly the way he wanted, in front of everyone. The reception hall sparkled with string lights and champagne dreams. Everyone had just finished dinner. The band was tuning their instruments. The air buzzed with joy, laughter, and nerves only I could feel. Lana stood beside me in her elegant ivory dress, radiant and unaware of how much I needed her calm. She squeezed my hand when the DJ tapped the mic, and now, he said, a few words from our best man, the groom's father. Applause rippled through the room as Cal walked up to the stage like it was built just for him. He wore a smug smile, a tux that probably wasn't paid for, and the unearned confidence of a man who still believed he owned the room. Thank you, Cal said into the mic, his voice smooth as butter. It's not every day a man gets a second chance. especially with a son as incredible as mine. I clenched my jaw. The guests ate it up, smiling, nodding, some dabbing their eyes with napkins. He dropped a few jokes about fatherhood, sprinkled in some nostalgia, and ended with, "Being here today is the greatest honor of my life." Another round of applause. He handed me the mic with a pat on the shoulder, whispering, "Make it count." I smiled back, "Oh, I would." I looked out over the sea of faces, family. Friends, Lana's colleagues, journalists, even a city councilman or two. "Thank you all for being here today," I began. "And thank you, Cal, for your words." I paused. Took a breath. My father and I haven't always had the best relationship. In fact, until a few weeks ago, I hadn't seen him in 17 years. That's not something most people know. The room shifted. People leaned in. Forks stopped clinking. What you also may not know is that when he left, he didn't just walk away from a marriage. He walked away from debt he created, a house he nearly cost us, and a mother he left to clean up his mess. I pulled the folder from under the table and held it up. These are copies of loan documents. Forged signatures. Bank statements. Offshore accounts. All tied to Cal Remington. My father. Gasps rippled. Cal's face went from smug to stunned, his mouth opening, but no words coming. I let him back into my life because I wanted to believe people could change. But I learned that apologies mean nothing when they're fueled by desperation, not remorse. I turned to face him. "You didn't come here to support me. You came here to save yourself. But I'm not 9 years old anymore. I don't owe you anything." Silence. Dead, heavy silence, then someone clapped. One person, then another. Until half the room joined in. Cal stood frozen, eyes wide, trembling. I left the mic on the table and walked back to Lana, who stood waiting with pride, and tears, in her eyes. My father had just fallen, and I had finally risen. The letter arrived a week after the wedding, no return address. Just my name in a shaky script I recognized instantly, Cal's handwriting. I stood at the mailbox for a long time, thumb hovering over the envelope's flap, heart stubbornly still. Lana watched from the porch, arms crossed, not saying a word. She knew better than to ask if I was going to open it. I did. Inside was a single page, handwritten. No greeting. No dear Dawson. Just a flood of regret that tried to sound like sincerity. "I didn't come back for money," he wrote. "I came back because I thought I had time left to be a father. I was wrong about a lot of things, your mother, the choices I made, and most of all, you." He talked about watching me give that speech, how he never realized how much I'd grown into someone he couldn't manipulate. He used words like shame and remorse, tried to say he'd lived with guilt for years, but nowhere in the letter did he say, "I'm sorry," not once. It was like he wanted to clean his conscience without getting his hands dirty. Like naming what he'd done would make it too real. I folded the letter once and slid it back into the envelope. Lana was still waiting when I walked up the porch steps. "Are you okay?" she asked. I nodded, but I didn't sit. Instead, I walked to the grill in the backyard, opened the lid, and tossed the envelope inside. A flick of the lighter. The paper curled and darkened, the ink melting into nothing. Lana came up behind me and rested her chin on my shoulder. "That was closure," she whispered. I shook my head. "No. This is closure." I watched until the last ember went out. See, forgiveness isn't always a door you hold open. Sometimes it's the door you bolt shut. Cal didn't want to fix things, he wanted to rewrite the ending. But that chapter of my life was already finished. After the letter burned, I didn't think about him for days, until I got a message from Kendra. He left, no note. No goodbye. Just gone. I wasn't surprised. Cal was a ghost, more smoke than man. And ghosts don't linger where they've been exposed. I sat with Lana that night, watching the city lights of Columbus twinkle through our apartment window. The world was quiet. No lies, no performances. Just peace. "I hope he finds whatever he's looking for," I said aloud. but he's not going to find it here. The morning after Lana and I returned from our honeymoon in Asheville, I brewed 2 cups of coffee in the quiet of our Columbus apartment and watched the sunlight filter through the curtains. No voicemails from Cal. No cryptic texts. No shadows reaching from the past. Just peace, for the first time in years. I felt whole. Lana padded into the kitchen, hair still tousled from sleep, and took the mug from my hand with a soft thank you. We didn't need to talk about the wedding anymore. Not the speech. Not the fallout. The world had kept spinning, and we had chosen to move with it. That's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It's not always fire and fury. Sometimes it's quiet. It's closing the door and refusing to open it again, even when they knock. Especially when they knock. People had opinions, of course. Some relatives thought I went too far. A few old family friends said I humiliated him. But the ones who mattered, my mother's sister, my best man Nate, Lana, they knew the truth. I didn't burn a bridge, I walked away from one that was already in ruins. A few days after we got back, Lana and I hosted a small dinner, just close friends and a couple of her cousins. There were no speeches. No hidden agendas. Just laughter, shared memories, and the clinking of real crystal glasses passed down from her grandmother. That was family. Not blood. Not obligation. But choice. Later that night, as we cleaned up, Lana asked, "Do you think he'll ever come back?" I shrugged. He might. Cal never stays gone for good. But if he does, he won't find the same kid waiting. You're not that kid anymore. No, I said, wiping down the counter. Now I'm a husband. A friend. A man who chooses who gets to sit at my table. She smiled and wrapped her arms around me. That's the only kind of family that matters. And she was right. We'd framed one photo from the wedding, a candid shot of us dancing under string lights, heads tilted together, eyes closed, smiling like we knew what it took to get there. Not just through the ceremony, but through all the pain that led to it. I glanced at it now on the bookshelf. No Cal in the background. No ghosts. Just us. Revenge didn't make me bitter. It made me clean. It stripped away the weight I'd carried for too long, the need to fix what never wanted to be fixed. I didn't get closure from his apology, I got it from choosing not to let him back in, and that, I realized, was the ultimate act of freedom, because in the end, I didn't inherit my father's legacy, I buried it, and chose my own. If this story hit home, or made you think twice about who really belongs in your circle, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more powerful stories just like this one. And if you've ever had to cut ties with someone who should have protected you, tell us in the comments. Your voice matters here.